Hi friends, welcome back to Art in the Stacks. Today we will be talking about portraiture again, so you just need a pencil and an eraser and a piece of paper. So to begin, we're going to kind of go back over doing the framework of our drawing of our portrait. So I'm just going to draw really of my page. I find that it's sometimes easier just to rotate the paper, but if you can draw a good circle with it still, then you can go for it. And so I think last time we did a method where we use this bottom line for our nose, but today I'm actually going to use that where our lip is going to fall to make the face a little bit shorter. There are a couple of different things that you can do, and so just switch up what method you want to use and try out different ones. So I'm going to make a little line about an inch away from the bottom of my circle to be my chin, and then just make some curved lines to outline the jaw coming up into the circle. And then I'm going to kind of do the outside of my head, and we're going to use this outer edge to kind of frame our ears instead of framing the head like we did last time. Again, you can do that, but this is just a different method that you can use. And whenever I was looking at my drawing books, I remembered this one, so I thought we would try this out today. Okay, so then about in the center of your circle, we're going to make another line across to show about where our eyes are going to be. Straighten it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to guess that my nose is going to be somewhere around here. We may change it in a little bit once we measure out our features, and then put the eyebrows somewhere up here. Okay, so kind of what we talked about last time, you want to make sure that your eyes are about the same size and then about the width of an eye apart. So I'm going to kind of figure out where they're going to end by measuring just with the end of my pencil, and then do a couple of guesses to see how long they need to be to make it even across. It looks like that may work. So I'm just using the words on my pencil to do some rough measurements, because it doesn't have to be perfect, because no one's eyes are exactly the same. But make it a little bit closer. Just play with it and see where you want your eyes to fall. I'll do that a little bit closer. And let's draw a line down the center of our page. Okay, those are about even. And again, we can go back and change it if we need to. So to begin our eyes, we're going to do the outline like we did last time, where you just draw a couple of kind of an almond shape, a couple of curved lines, and then have your the edge of your eye over there, and then try and make it about even on the other side, however best you can. And this part just kind of takes a lot of practice and measuring to get things close to the same size, but I'll lift that one up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to sketch out my eyebrows. So I'm going to have it start a little bit past the edge of my eye and bring the arch up to the eyebrow line, and then extend past the other edge. And you can make your eyebrows thicker or thinner, longer or shorter, however you want them to be. It's just about where I'm going to put them today. Do the same thing over here. I think I'll start on this edge. I'll bring that down a little bit because it's not exactly straight. Okay, and they don't have to be perfect right now because we're going to go back and add some detail later. So like we talked about last week, then we're going to kind of put our nose somewhere around here. I think I want it about an eye's width down as well from my eye line. So measuring out how long my eyes are, I'm going to put it right about here. So I think I'll leave my nose line where I had it. But you can move it up or down depending on how long you want your nose to be. I'm going to sketch out a little circle. And remember, right now we're wanting to make all of our lines pretty light because we will be erasing most of them later. And if you have some drawing pencils, then you can use your H's right now and then go back in with your bolder ones later. I'm going to draw some lines down for my eyes to measure out about where the edge of my nose will be. And sketch out the nostrils. You can make them kind of round, or if you want more angled nose, then bring them in like that. Just do however you want. And this is where it really helps to look in a mirror or look at a picture and look at your nose or someone else's nose and just kind of figure out how it looks. And then I'm going to go on this curve of my circle to draw out the nostrils. And they're just going to curve down to meet on this nose line. Okay, and then I'm going to draw another little oval down here for where the top of my lip is going to fall. And then I'll draw the middle of my lip. And extend it to the middle of the eye, maybe a little bit less. Maybe about where the eye start. Straighten it up. And then we'll put the bottom lip somewhere around here. And then bring the top down a little bit. We're not going to have it meet all the way. We'll go back in and make it look a little better later. And you can bring your lip up if you don't want them that big, or down, or you can make them even bigger if you want. And I may bring my chin up a little bit because I don't want it quite that low. So just play with it. Do whatever looks best to you. And if you're drawing from a picture, then that makes it easier to know how big you should make the features. So now we're going to move on to the ears. And starting about where I ended my eyebrow, I'm just going to make a little curved line up to my eyebrow line, and then go all the way down to meet at my nose. I'm going to add a little bit of detail on the inside just to give it some dimension with a few curved lines. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now we can start erasing some of our... I'm going to go in the middle of my eyes to erase that midline and some of the other lines that we've formed in here. Just be careful not to erase the features that we just drew. I may keep a few for my nose because I'm going to be shading that in later. But this is why we want to keep those initial lines really light so that we can easily go back and erase them. And keep a little bit of that to show where my part's going to be for the hair. Okay, and I'll go ahead and erase this outer circle. can touch up your jaw to give it a little more dimension, or you can leave it round depending on what shape of face you're trying to convey. And then we can add a neck, kind of going off from the corners of the eyes. Right. And then let's establish a hairline up here. I'm going to give this person some long hair. Maybe it's up in a ponytail, so I'm going to go out from the ears. Just give a halo around. And a couple more strands, kind of like that. And then we can erase the top of the head. Maybe bring the hairline down a smidge. Okay, so now let's move on to try and add some details to our portrait. So I'm going to start with the eyes, because that's kind of one of my favorite parts to play with. So for the eyes, we're going to draw an iris, which is that colorful part of your eye that's going to take up most of this almond shape, but I'm not going to have it touch on the bottom, and I'm going to have it go over the top. So you can make it a little bigger or smaller if you want, or you can have it take up the whole lid, but I like to do it kind of like that. And then we're going to add the lid line. So starting from this corner of the eye, just make a line across, following the curve of the eye and ending a little bit past the other edge. And then for the bottom lid, we're going to make a really tight line, so right up against that bottom part of the eye. This is where your bottom eye will grow from, so it's going to come out a little bit more on this side than on this side, but be a little hard to see. Then I'm going to make a kind of darken in this outer edge, and then establish where my highlight's going to be. So your eyes have some highlights in them, like that reflect the light. So we're going to kind of box off a little part that's going to and color in that portion because your eyes are shiny. Then I'm going to draw my pupil. And again, you can make the pupil big or small depending on how much light you want to be in this portrait's room. Will determine how dilated it is. And then I'm going to start drawing some little detail lines. I'm just going to do a couple for right now, and we'll go back in and add some more. And then same with the eyelashes. I'm going to just draw a few quick curved lines to give me an idea of where they're going to fall. Now with hairs and like with eyelashes, it's really important that they are not uniform, which is kind of crazy. So whenever you go in and add some, just maybe kind of clump them in some areas and make them a little more sparse than others. And they are not all the same size. And like on the bottom, they get thicker as they come out to the edge. So just kind of play around with that. But we're dealing with the eyebrows and the everything. It's your strands are not always going to be perfect and even. Make them a little wonky. So I'm gonna shade in my eyelid and then do some light shading on this bottom. And then go in to add a little more detail in the iris. So I'm just going to do some more lines all throughout, and I'm going to make the top half of it a lot darker than the bottom half because these eyelashes and the eyelid are going to be casting more of a shadow on that top part. But remember to leave your highlight white as much as you can. And then maybe darken the outside. And depending on what color you want your eye to be is going to tell you how dark you should make the eye. So if you want them to be blue, then you're only going to put a few lines in there. And if you want them to be brown, then you're color in the whole thing. Just depends on how dark you want it to be. And then I'll put some shadows from the lashes. Maybe add a few more. And then, like, if you want your person to be wearing makeup, you can add some fun, like, winged eyeliner or something. Just kind of play with it. And so there's an eye. And so now let's move on to the eyebrow. Kind of like what we talked about with the hairs. You're just going to want to do some short sporadic hairs following your outline. You don't want to make them too even or it won't look natural. But you still want them to be kind of clumped together. And again, the more little hairs that you draw, the darker it's going to look. So if you want this person to have light eyebrows, then you won't do very many hairs. If you want them to be dark, you'll do even more. So just play with that. And so to kind of finish this part off, we're going to do a little bit of shading here, following this line that we curved out for the nose, and we'll meet with it in a little bit. So I'm just going to shade from there and leave a little bit of white up here. And then you can go in with a tissue or with your finger and kind of blend some of that in. Just be careful not to blend in all of the details in your eyes or it's just going to be smudgy. So moving on to the nose, we're going to darken our nostrils a little bit. There. And then around this circle that we drew and maybe pull it up. Here's the fun part is in shading, you can kind of just play with it and do whatever you want. And if you don't like the way it looks, then you just erase it and start over. But this is where you really get that realism in, that it gives the face some shape. And so you can shade a little bit and then blend it. And then maybe go back in and do some more if you feel like it needs to be darker in some areas. And so like for the ridge of the nose, it's going to be darker. And then I'm going to do a little bit of lighter shading all the way out to meet up with the pieces that we just shaded for the eye. And then I'm going to do some more shading underneath this nostril to try and show that that has some dimension. And then I'll go in and blend some of that. Or if you have a blending stick, that works a lot better, but your finger will do the trick as well. And then if you want to keep some parts a little lighter, you can just go back and erase and start over. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of shading to establish a jawline. And again, if you want them to be rounder, you can do that lower or round it out. Just have fun with it. And then we'll move on to the lips. So right here, I'm going to shade this little part between your nose and your lips to show some depth there. And then for the bottom lip, we're just going to do a couple of really big lines to give us a guide. And we're not going to really extend this bottom all the way out. We'll bring it a little bit closer, but it's not really going to meet. And then we're going to do some tighter lines up on the top. So then once you have it started, you can go back and add some more shading in there. Maybe outline these lines, and then I'm gonna kind of use a highlight as well. So I've already colored this part in, but I'm going to make the middle part brighter than the outside. So I'll do some shading on both the top and the bottom, but leave the middle a little brighter. And then we'll blend that in a little bit. And so again, depending on the color that you want the lips, will depend on how dark you make the shading part. Maybe we'll add some little lines to show that she's smiling. And then for the bottom, we're going to do the same thing where this middle is going to stay pretty light. So I'm going to do some more lines all around it. And then the closer they are to the center line, the darker I'm going to make them be. And then on the bottom, we'll blend that in a little bit. Maybe bring my highlight back. And so feel free to play with that. And for the edges, I'm just going to kind of shade to meet the end, but I'm not going to extend this harsh line out very far because your lips kind of seem to fade off in there. And then I'll put a little bit of a shadow underneath there. And for your chin, depending on how defined you want it to be, you can do some shading, like in a circle if you want, or just kind of follow your jawline. And that's one of the things that you just kind of have to play with to see how you want it to go. I'll blend some of this in. And so have fun with that. And then finally we're going to move on to the hair. So this part can be really fun, but it also takes a little while. So with hair, again, it's individual strands. It's not all going to be one big block of color. So you're going to establish where you want your part to be, and then that's where all of the hair is going to fall from. And you want to make it in individual strokes. And falling kind of where you established it. So since I have it pulled back behind her, I'm going to have it all meet behind her ear. I'm going to erase that center line once I've established where I want it to be, because in your part, it's just the scalp that's showing. And so like from the other side, it'll be like that. And so depending on how dark you want it to be, you can use harsher strokes and then pull them really close together if you want her to have super dark hair. And something that's important is that you want to leave a highlight somewhere. So thinking about kind of like with our eyes and our lips, wherever your light source is, say that if it's coming from up here, then you're going to want to leave one part of the hair that's a little lighter. So I'm going to like leave this portion a little brighter, but you're still going to have some strands falling over. So just play with that, and then you can have some pieces falling down, and you can even have a long or a thicker strand. And for the ears, I'm just going to shade them in a little bit. All right, so those are the basics, and again, it's kind of just up to you from here on out. You can play with the hair and with your shading and finish out creating a full portrait, and please post in the comments and show us what you've done. Thanks, guys.